thanks so much for your time, first of all.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having us. I'm just going to share my screen. Everybody can see that?
Perfect.
My name is Jerry Dirksen. As I mentioned before, I'm a professor here at Winthrop University, along with my colleague and partner, Jabiz Shafioun. Say hello, Jabiz.
I think that there is some problem with the audio of Professor Jabiz.
Yeah,
Jerry, you can
can't
continue.
hear you, Jabiz.
Okay, I think I was muted.
Oh, it's okay. Thanks so much.
Sorry. I'm Jabiz Shafioun. I'm happy to be here, and thanks Francesco Galdi to have us here. Actually, the idea of design diaspora came from exactly my background and Jerry's background, how we came together here in Winthrop University, and we are teaching with different background in the same university together. Maybe I tell you a little bit of my background, which is connecting to design diaspora as well. I am from Iran. I was teaching in Iran I was a student in Iran in bachelor degree and master degree in industrial design. And in this area, I had some professors, which one of them came from Germany, and he educated in Germany, and he brought design process to us and taught us how to learn from people, how to learn from problems and come up by some solutions. At the end is learning all these things and coming to Italy for my PhD and learning from Italian culture, Italian design, totally different world, and finding design process is the same, but teaching was differently, like foundation was different in the first year, learning from semiotic, learning from all aspects of design and finding problems. And then I came here as a visiting scholar and worked in IIT Institute of Design, University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And there was, again, very diverse teachers, like from Canada, from Japan. And then I came here and I was sitting in Jerry's class, the beginning to learn how he is teaching design to his students. And now I am teaching all these things I learned from all these cultures, all these backgrounds, or different variety things I had in the past, and I give it to my students. It's like a chain of coming to my students, and hopefully they would have something good to transfer to other parts of the world or transfer to other people. Nice to meet you, Annie.
So
Thanks.
my background is somewhat similar, although not quite as far. I went from Canada to come to the United States, and my advisors and my professors at school in Canada, one was Jorge Frasquera, who is Argentinian. He worked in the film industry as well as graphic design. And also Peter Bartel, who came from Switzerland. He was a Swiss type designer. And so those two gentlemen were very influential on me in terms of my design education. And I hope to bring that to my students. And I've had some of them also go into teaching and design education. And the ideas of innovative thinking, design thinking, sort of also gets transferred through them and to their students, and ultimately that gets carried on to other places, and as Jabiz said, to other people. So this idea that sort of design knowledge or innovative thinking comes has been going on for some time. One of the more sort of famous examples is the Bauhaus in Germany, and it's because the war ended, or the war started, sorry, in 1933 when they shut down the Bauhaus, and all of the professors from the school moved farther away, so other parts of Europe, into North America, South America. And so I like this sort of path that Moholy-Nagy was influential to Gorky Kepes, who was a professor in design from Hungary, who had Saul Bass, an American designer, in his class. And so you can see just even in some of the quotations that some of the ideas flow through one person into another. So I wanted to sort of set the groundwork for what we meant by diaspora when we were sort of conceiving of this idea. And part of it was this notion of people moving far afield and sort of bringing strategies, innovation, the way in which they think about, in many cases, design, but in how they affect society, systems, and products particularly. And also the second aspect to that was the notion of people sharing ideas. So the advancements of design research and, again, sort of innovative thinking is part of that sharing of knowledge. So the design process is, as we've seen, sort of a global phenomena. So it moves beyond just any particular culture or any particular region. Even though there are many design processes out there, they essentially have the same or very similar parts. They may be categorized slightly different, but many of them have notions of understanding users or understanding the audience and people and how they interact with systems and products, for example. There's also the context in which they're working with those systems and products. And so this notion that there's specific ways in which people teach design is, I think, more of a culmination of many ideas from around the globe. Shabiz, you're muted again.
The output of all this was products, and some products are cultural. And I will tell you about when we are talking about cultural means what. Maybe I can bring some examples of, like, for example, 1 century ago, Edward Bernays and Sigmund, which was nephew of Sigmund Freud, he really changed the culture of United States. He started by bringing this idea of, if you buy product, if you buy the things, you even don't need them, just because it gives you feels good. Yeah, or like, for example, if you own something, it's gonna give you like feeling positive or feeling calm, self-conscious, or like you will have more confidence. And all these things encourage people to buy more and more the things they didn't even need them. And it's like the idea, and the fun fact was Sigmund Freud was the academic advisor, and the diaspora of idea of spread around the world, and all this buying things came and give it to all the world to feel better by buying things. Other things is the status in the culture, which is like people are buying things because again, give them the feeling of it. They are in this different level of society. I was talking about the same thing with my professor, Marco Maiocchi, and he believed this means, like, for example, if you remember or if you know about Maslow pyramid, which the base is more about physical needs, and people were buying things they think they're gonna bring themselves to the higher level of Maslow pyramid. If you search Maslow pyramid, you would know what I'm talking about. But like this status in the culture is like, for example, people think by wearing a jacket, which Angelina Jolie, for example, wear in one of her movies, they're gonna feel the same. They're gonna feel they are celebrity, or they're gonna feel they are famous. And culturally, we see like Italian clothes as a luxurious, Japanese car reliable, or maybe I shouldn't say by Russian aircraft like are terrible, for example. That's so good to say, but all these things is bringing people to different level. Output of social norms, I would say social norms is like, always I have these examples for my students, like when you brush your teeth, you don't just brush your teeth to feel healthy and feel like I'm taking care of my teeth. You brush your teeth to have better effect on other people. You don't want people don't talk to you because you don't have a good smell. And all these social norms gonna bring something to our society which we are wearing. Like, for example, we want to look like professional. We're gonna wear some kind of clothes to look like a doctor or to look like a professor. And these social norms is one other things which we are buying products as well. Another thing is political protection. Most of the things is happening around us. Politics has a big effect on it. It's like how much the government or how much they want to protect the society. What is the import, what is coming to the country, which things they want to people to consume, which kind of product they want to protect, a culture or religion or whatever it is they are protecting, and how much they want to be seen in whole international world.
So there are products that are culturally based, but we're sort of making the notion that, or sort of setting out the argument that in many cases we see that products can be global, or they certainly larger companies like Apple and Microsoft, those ones that are easily consumable online, that they are more global, and for a number of reasons. So one of them is the demand for those products. So again, sort of the economic side of things, where companies are making agreements both through governments and with other companies to sell goods at large scale. So exporting the items and products that people want is mostly just to fulfill this demand by other consumers. And part of that is because those products are popular. People know or recognize the quality of an Apple computer, and so they desire those types of things. And in part, again, sort of goes back to Jabiz's point about being seen as somebody who owns that particular product, as a reflection of who they are. They also are doing it to be competitive. So having products and services that other companies have in their industry ensures that they are using processes that are at least the same as good, or using tools that have sort of proven themselves to be the best or the most common in their industry. And so in order to stay competitive, they need to buy these products and services and make them available to their employees. The output of services is maybe a little bit easier to sort of explain, and I've touched on that in the idea of certainly technologies that transfer over. But some other examples are a standardization, and sometimes we see that as a negative term, but if we think about like a 5-star hotel, the expectation across the globe is that there's going to be a certain level of luxury or comfort that comes with that 5-star rating. In part, this is due to the fact that it's based in travel, so you automatically have this kind of global transference of expectation. But as designers, we see this kind of standardization to be a benchmark, a way of identifying what the expectation level is and what's wanted to be delivered. But also, too, there's room enough for variation to be creative within that, so that it's not that we're advocating for a very homogeneous, or that every hotel room that's a luxury hotel room should be the same, but that there is this understood standardization and standard of service that they expect. Equity is another sort of aspect of services where now we're seeing much more push for equitable services, and the notion that human rights is a global concept, and there's again sort of a baseline that's expected in the treatment of people, in the way that we start looking at innovative systems and thought processes that include poorly represented organizations. It's one of the aspects of the notion of looking at audiences may not be culturally based, but in fact might be a reorganization or a recategorization of groups that are more about like-mindedness or more about status in society, so that the innovations that we come out with serve not groups based on border, but groups based on need or based on want or desire. So design education has a similar kind of thing that happened in the Bauhaus that's happening now during the pandemic. So there's a sudden shift towards moving, rather than moving from Germany to the rest of the world, moving from in-classroom very localized dissemination of information to global distribution, where now design schools have most of their classes available online. And I think it's one of the things that the pandemic has sort of brought about is really an opportunity to rethink that idea of education, but also an opportunity to show our best self in sharing information. I have a number of colleagues that have put out some videos for their classes, and because they teach in the same disciplines that I and Javiz do, that they've sort of offered those to everybody to use in their class if they like. So this kind of sharing of information seems to be, again, sort of an opportunity for us in education. It'll be interesting how the pandemic and certainly the vaccine pans out. Maybe Javiz, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, actually something was interesting about the learning about sharing now and gaining more information from outside now is more than before. And it's like one of the things I was talking with Jerry today, we were talking about nowadays participating, like, for example, if these things is happening here when we are sitting together and talking and presenting this, it might not happen if it was not this situation. Of maybe Francesco would invite someone to his class instead of we would be outside like this. And participating in conferences, or like before when we wanted to go to a conference, we needed to pay for travel, pay for accommodation, staying there, pay for the food, and all these things, but now just sitting in front of the computer and then not just paying maybe for the conference registration. It's, of course, changing this idea of meeting people and exchanging face-to-face information, but it gives more spreading around the world, all the information, which is now, if we look at the virus by itself, this again is the idea of diaspora, and the vaccine again gonna be something to spread around the world when we're gonna have it by gaining the knowledge from other people.
So yeah, we think that again, it's maybe an opportunity for us to rethink this notion of distribution. I don't think we're in danger of losing some cultural identity, but certainly in the aspect of education and sort of the ease in which people move around the world, there's a movement towards globalization. The alternate side, or the sort of downside, I think, to the pandemic is that we are feeling a lot more isolated. Because we aren't free to travel, we aren't free to move around as we used to. But I think ultimately it ends, and globalization has an opportunity to step in, but step in a kind of positive way. So with that, I think we say thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for this introduction. If you remember to shut down your presentation, and how you can see, I'm talking with the student and I'm talking with the audience, they touch, even if they starting with the idea of design discipline, they touched something that you are also studying in, for example, in communication, or in marketing, or in public relationship, or in advertisement, the political approach, the cultural approach, the society approach. And that's why, let me share, and we start now with the second part of our live with the research question that we propose, Professor Jerry and Professor Shabiz, they together, we decide to propose to the student let me say to this future creative leader, this question, how we can produce diaspora? We need to sharing, or we need to hoarding knowledge in this new normality. And now is the time to give the possibility also to our creative leader, new talents, to present one by one their research. I think that we are ready to start for the first interpretation, or like I present you the first anomaly. And if you're ready, please, Julia.
I would like to talk about the concept of diaspora versus nature. The humankind has always lived a natural evolution. This constant transformation has always characterized our species until now. Now, in fact, we are facing a serious period of crisis, a difficult time. As Thomas Samuel Kuhn stated in his theory, in order to achieve a new normal after a crisis, a Gestalt shift is compulsory. This means a change in the world perspective, a change in the point of view, and to achieve a new paradigm. This complicated period of crisis brought also a spread feeling of uncertainty, a general uncertainty. We no more know what the truth is and what is not. This can also be considered a period of diaspora, where our opinions are scattered. In order to achieve a new normal, we have two possibilities. The first one is to follow an enlightened pontifex, where pontifex stands for builder of bridges, so to overcome difficulties. And I put sharing in the sense of dividing, so because it means marking a differentiation with the people we were before the crisis. Or the other opportunity is to follow our nature, so keep our system, and that means not changing. So I put hoarding with this one, with the ones we were before, so no changing. we have also to consider that this is the same evil nature that considers this virus we are living in as a solution for our species, for the humankind. So we have to consider that as an evil nature. I cannot choose, so I would like to leave you with a question. Should we listen to the same system we have been growing with? That is also the reason we are at war in the first place.
Professor Jabiz, Professor Jerry, do you have any question?
Yeah, I'm curious, looking at sort of nature as in the framework of hoarding, and I appreciate the question that you're asking as well. Do you have any ideas? Are we moving towards isolation and hoarding more, or are we looking for a new way of distributing information?
From the way I'm looking at things now, I really think that we are going through a hoarding phases where we are scattered in our houses and where the information comes to us in a different way, and we cannot know what the truth stands. And yeah, I definitely think as an evil nature that doesn't trust us, and I don't know where we are going to go, honestly.
Thanks so much, Giulia. And now, thanks so much also to Professor Jerry for the question. Now we are ready for the second anomaly. Please.
Yeah, I started my work making an etymological analysis of the word diaspora that is made by dia, that means true, and spero, that means scatter. Usually, when we hear this word, we associate it to a negative meaning. For instance, we think about the Jewish people diaspora, and so I try to decline this word to a positive meaning, intending diaspora as a modus operandi for spreading culture across the world in order to empower people and to encourage the development of critical thinking and the exchange of ideas. Nowadays, in my opinion, men of culture and scholars use their knowledge to justify the status quo, bringing us many instances to support it. And as Bruno Latour stated, nowadays culture has no more a debunking game, and his thought is similar to what suggested Francis Bacon in the 17th century, when he theorized a process in which, before building a common cultural system, is necessary to destroy and debunk all stereotypes and false system of knowledge through the use of partial destruence. And culture is crucial, in my opinion, also to break the chain of the ignorance, because it's the most powerful instrument we have that can enable people to better understand what is going on around them. And is also something that is suggested in Don DeLillo books, Underworld, when he said that the knowledge of the world and the name of the things give you the power also to manage and deal with them. And but before you have to have your own idea. That, in my opinion, the idea can be seen as a seed, the seed of a discussion or a structured thought. And those ideas can be yours or acquired after a discussion. Those ideas, so to be developed and to grow, require a feed that, in my opinion, can be identified in discussion, because in this way you can develop your critical thinking and put together. So ideas and discussion can be related to nurturing education as a new paradigm, as a new framework in which the growth of ideas is always encouraged. And talking about our current situation, we can find the seed of this new normality in the coronavirus, that is a disruptive element that came and changed our life balance. And our society finds a new deal, a new way to survive through the use of masks and adopting the social distancing. But actually, it's not already clear how the new paradigm will be structured, and how, after the pandemic, what will be the impact on our cultural system. But to understand this, first of all, a cultural diaspora, in my opinion, is necessary. And let me conclude with a question that is this. So, in your opinion, why, even if the majority of us is aware about the importance of knowledge and the culture, why we are still stuck in these continuous sparse constraints without debunking the false? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Salvatore. Professor, do you have any question for Salvatore?
Just Salvatore, do you think this pandemic, is it going to, thanks for your presentation first, is it going to make you by yourself is more hoarding or making more on diaspora or spreading things around the world? But individually, what do you think about it?
I think that it depends, because of course I think that the spreading of culture is always a good thing, but it has to be done in the right way. So it means that you have to really try to achieve this aim with all your efforts. If not, is not enough. Because so in the opposite situation, we still remain in our current situation.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. So the idea of bringing culture to different parts of the world, do you not see that those ideas that you have coming in with your culture, that it's less spreading of culture and more of a blending of cultures?
I don't know.
In other words,
yeah.
Just I'll give you an example. So an American who buys an Italian car, they don't want to be Italian. They want to be seen as driving a luxury or a sports car. So the way that they look at it is not to absorb part of the Italian culture, but rather to stand in as a representation of part of who they are as an American who loves sports cars.
Yeah, I think that the reason why, following your example, someone decides to buy a car is that in that way he tried to express part of himself. That not necessarily means that he wants to join another culture, but simply he recognized part of itself in something that maybe came from another country, but is not the first aim, I think.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry to interrupt you, but we can continue with the third interpretation. Please, Chiara Luna.
The word diaspora exists because we consider the world split in different countries. But in an utopic world where there is only one big country, the meaning of diaspora will be not perceived in the same way. Nowadays, we have different types of diaspora, and one of it is the outflow of talents. It is considered a positive way for the country that receives cultural people, but in a negative way for the country that sees all these brilliant minds go away. Why this distinction? Because nowadays, with the globalization, we cannot speak about the hoarding of knowledge, because we spend the most of our time on internet and using social media and doing research. So we can hoarding knowledge every day from every country and culture. Since these contests are published spontaneously, we share our knowledge. So it is possible that everyone can have some benefit from them. So thanks to this instrument, thanks to internet, we can consider a universal design, or at least we can aspire to it. Another example of diaspora is related to Google and how it's managed their employees, because he adopted a strategic approach for its employees. Google does not diversify according to countries and culture. They think that all the employees are similar and treat them in the same way, always respecting the cultural needs and demands of each person by giving them the different benefits. So if we consider the Google view like the future new normal, we cannot consider diaspora in a negative way. We like a hoarding of knowledge, but we consider it only in the sharing point of view. That it's be positive. So how we consider the Google model? It could be the new normal for society in order to create a unique world without barriers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor.
Thank you for your presentation. I forgot, I cannot pronounce your name. Okay. Actually, it was interesting, the things you said. I was reading a dissertation which was about global design some days ago, and it was about Microsoft and Google and all this like browsers or search engines. They started by like just global design for everybody the same, and was about like what would be the benefit of that. And one part of that is because they are talking about the with icon language, with semiotic, and with signs instead of the different, everybody with different language, they can read these signs. And it was interesting you brought this, and I think it's we can refer sharing to those platforms, but the same time is they came like very late, and they were the first one who brought this to us, and we accepted in a way it was. Maybe we can think the other things which was created in the past and changed based on the time. Maybe it's a little bit different with those Google and Microsoft. Jerry, if you want to add something to it.
No, I think that's great. That's I agree with that.
Thanks so much. Now we are ready for the 4 anomalies. Please.
I identify design diaspora as a virtual dispersion of population, meaning losing contact with reality. So I analyze the phenomenon of digitalization. Digitalization, viewed as diaspora, means dispersion of population. So we can take an example, social networks. Social networks gives us the affordability of being connected to everybody around the world and to get informed about everything. But at the same time, they create the phenomenon of isolation. Isolation because we detach from reality. So then I analyze digitalization as a design. So as a field operating towards new directions. So we can think that digitalization is a new design, so a new paradigm. An example is about Amazon that 2 days ago launched Amazon Pharmaceutics. Amazon Pharmaceutics is launching a challenge towards the normal Amazon pharmacy shops. So they're making them feel in powerlessness. Why? Because they need to adapt in a quick way to a new process that is not their own process. So what happens that I pose myself a question: do we choose to engage and to adapt into digitalization, or are we first to adapt into digitalization? I would say first, because if you are not part of it, you have the feeling of being alienated. So you have the phenomenon of alienation. And alienation also demotivates you to adapt. And adaptation is also given by creativity. So I am asking myself a question: should we pose limits towards digitalization? And when does it stop being beneficial? Because digitalization also prevents us from being motivated towards changing.
Thanks so much, Lisa. If you can open your camera for the question, Professor.
I'm interested if you see that not just in digitization, but also the diaspora of, particularly systems. I think of, even third world countries that adopt sort of farming practices from other countries in order to, produce bigger yields, for example. Do you see digitization is the main motivator for this distribution, or can you see that as other things, other services, for example?
No, I think it's more a global process, as you were saying. But digitalization is the process that involves the majority of the world, I would say, because the more industrialized world. So, but the same process is occurring also in other part of the world, but in a different phase. I don't know if
okay, so it's mainly in your mind, it's mainly the act or the occurrence of digitization that's caused this kind of dispersion.
Yeah,
okay.
Because reconnecting to the sharing and hoarding, I would say we are sharing, and we are sharing too much. So sharing too much creates confusion.
Okay, interesting.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Well done. The next, please.
Francesco, that is not my PowerPoint.
It's not the final version?
That is not the final version, no.
Okay, don't worry. I switch to the next and I will try to resolve the problem. Sorry for that. Are you ready? Please, Elisabetta.
Yes, hello. And today I want to talk about sharing versus hoarding when it comes to distance learning, because now we're all studying remotely and working remotely as well. So with the pandemic, it became a norm that we are all participating in distance learning. And yes, technology allows us to follow the lessons from all around the world, and also globalization. It promotes the development out of the comfort zone. So if there was not a pandemic, we would go abroad, but now we're all stuck in front of our computers. So my question was whether we are more programmed as humans to hoard knowledge or to share it. And well, every medal has two sides. When it comes to hoarding, it gives us a personal competitive advantage. So we think that we know more than others and we don't want to share. And also, historically, the more we know, the safer we feel. So when the difficulty comes, we feel that we know more and we do not want to share what we know already with other people. However, humans are social and we need to share to be good team players, and be a team player help us historically again. And when we share, it speeds up the process of ideation, coming up with ideas. And when it comes to studying and learning and working, people prefer to share knowledge so they feel like their contribution matters and it's group work. Yes, I like this quote that in order to properly understand the big picture, everyone should fear becoming mentally clouded and obsessed with one small section of truth. So I think nowadays there is so much information that it's preferably to share it in order to be a good team player, because nowadays in work environments, during school and universities, we're all forced to be team players. So we would be excluded if we keep the knowledge to ourselves. So my conclusion was that people are both programmed to hoard and to share, but nowadays it's more likely that people share because the development now is so fast that knowledge changes, and the longer we hold the knowledge, the older it gets, and it kind of has this expiring date. So the more you hold it, and then it might be useless. Yes, that is it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Elisabetta. Professor, do you have any question?
You said forcing in education for being a team player. Do you think it's something is obligating you? You don't like it, or it's not? It's just forcing you. You board first.
Well, honestly, sometimes I feel obligated because all the time we are forced to do group tasks, but it makes us flexible. So in the future, we can adjust to work environment. For example, when we will have to be in a group again, and so we can be a good part of society again.
Well, one thing I should tell you, some of my friends, they educated in Italy, and all of them now when they are here, the most benefit and the thing they are talking about it, they say, that was so awesome. We learned to work as a team and share information together. Because when you come to work, you have to work with other people. And this is something everybody who educated in Italy, they are appreciating. I don't know about all other parts of the world, but in Italy, that's why I'm connecting with them. I think it's a good opportunity to be in a group and work with a group. And thanks for your presentation. It was interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. We are ready for the next one. Please, Allegra. Allegra?
Sorry. I would like to create a connection between diaspora and the one of today's top trend at workplace, smart working. Smart working is the application in a universal way of the concept of design to reinvent the way people used to work. From the company's headquarters, where all the employees are used to meet and work all together, nowadays, employees are scattered at their home, working on their own to their task, and they can manage their time better. But at the same time, this has an impact on the way they work and they used to meet with their colleagues. Through smart working, employees hoard all their knowledge to reach the goals alone. And these lead to much satisfaction as they can manage their time and manage their work hour better. But at the same time, only at the end they recognize the group and the company. All the tasks are reached alone, and this led to an increase of self-empowerment, autonomy, and freedom, but also lead to much more isolation due to less social contact, because social contact is turned to be only through meeting, online meeting and call. But in reality, it is the communication and the mutual influence, also through body language and within the colleagues, that lead to creative idea and lead to an increase in the critical thinking of each of the employee. As also Seneca and Ege said, individual human is a social animal and need to be influenced and have a mutual contact with other people to build a creative idea and to create a more understood way of what there is around him. Smart working try to carry the reality in the digital atmosphere, but without succeeding, as my analysis show, because this led to a decrease in creativity, an increase in loneliness, and also in the digital inequality, as each individual have different digital competencies. And moreover, business around company headquarters struggle to survive, as there are no more employees that go to a coffee, go to restaurants, go to shop. Everything is closed. So the real question is, as the smart working still stay on our daily life and also in the new normality, is smart working the real key for more profitability? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Allegra. Professor.
Shabiz, do you have something to add?
I know.
I have a question for Allegra, are you in favor of sharing, or are you in favor of, in this moment, of keeping control or preserving the knowledge? What do you decide at the end of your presentation, sharing or preserving?
Sharing, but not through smart working. My idea is sharing, but smart working is not a solution, the good solution for sharing the knowledge. Because in order to have a deep share of ideas, share of knowledge, only through direct contact, face-to-face meeting is it possible. And smart working is not a good solution to reassure the idea, and collaborate to each other in the workplace.
Thanks so much. If there are no any questions, we can switch for the next presenter, please.
So, during this analysis, I asked myself what is the meaning of creativity during this pandemic, and which is the correlation within creativity and culture. If there is any correlation, if there are different diaspora creating from this correlation. So I will say that creativity is a resiliency, because with creativity, we have been able to withstand from difficult situations. I'm talking about the fact to go to offices. During this pandemic, we use smart working. Go to class, we used online classes. And meeting our friends, we used social media. Secondly, I would say that creativity is challenging, because as we are experiencing this pandemic, we didn't decide to be destroyed by this virus, but we did compel the virus by, for instance, modifying our product change of the companies from producing diapers to produce masks. And through the analysis, I understood how the relationship within culture and creativity is becoming more and more our melting pot as we are experiencing globalization. So different cultures are embracing each other, and there is exchange of beliefs, creeds, and opinions. And creativity is becoming more and more the same one. So at the end of my presentation, I would like to ask you if creativity, as Einstein did, to create something good and positive, but at the end, his creativity has been used with a negative scope to create a bomb. Are we using creativity during this pandemic in a positive and good way that will be used in a positive way, or there is the risk to create a bomb? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Professor.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I mean, I think it's an opportunity. We certainly could use it for a positive outcome. But yes, there is certainly the danger. And again, I'd watch the vaccine distribution of knowledge of vaccines for the pandemic to see which way we're leaning. I hope with the new American president that we will feel more compelled to help countries develop vaccines. In part, there's still a selfish motivation as well. So even though if you feel, again, as somebody mentioned in their presentation, if you feel secure, if you feel like there's a vaccination for everyone in your country, selling it to another country is an opportunity. And so that's a more selfish sort of approach to it. But I hope that there's, some humanitarians out there still that feel like that we sharing is just good for the world.
Thanks so much, Professor, and thanks so much for the presenter. Now, ready for the next, please.
Okay, so thinking if there is a cultural or a universal design, we need, in my opinion, to divide a narrow and a broad point of view. So I started firstly giving a definition of design by Margolin, that is the act of human making, and in that way it becomes part of the definition of being human. From a wide point of view, we can say that there are some elements that unify all the cultures. For example, globalization that permit to interact and share information with others. In this sense, I'm considering design as creating and to be intent on doing something. And it could permit us to evolve and grow as global population. So I would like to call this type of design a global design, which is based on the human research of simplify the existence and to achieve knowledge through which we can, so we need to exchange information with someone that could stimulate us. Going on the other hand into details, we all are able to see that there are obviously some cultural differences, and that between each one of us there is a personal design, and it keeps maintaining schism between all the populations. But I think that this cultural design could spread to a diaspora in a more extended sense. So we can see it, for example, in politics, or we can intend it in a spiritual sense. So searching our origins. So it brought me to reflect on the importance of search our own design, but also to take care about the others people research. So the importance of and the need of the other population to grow as human and as a globality. So we can, in that way, we can consider diaspora not as a division, but as an interaction. And the last question is related to nowadays. So if there is if the COVID-19 and its consequences slowing down or stopping the process of creating a common design, and if in this sense the action can obscure our human need of finding an identity and lead to a form of a diaspora, creating a dispersion of the population and communities.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
When you're talking about, thanks for your presentation. When you're talking about personal design, can you define it a little bit?
Yes, I thought, for example, to each personal different, the difference in our behavioral traits or in each person's characteristic as human, as a person who had some experiences, and that from those experiences learn and act in a different way from others.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And now, if we have no any question, please, the next address.
Okay, thank you. Well, so I am going to develop an approach based on questions, as many of my colleagues did. So in the first place, the question I will address was based on the proposal of the professor. So this first question is none other than the following. Is there a universal design, or the cultural difference is important enough, is an important enough aspect to consider design regional? So I'm going to answer this based on 4 key concepts, as well as the other questions. So as we all know, there's a global concept of design related to the creative process of generating new ideas or new concepts in order to improve a given situation. But since there are obviously different regional approaches that lead us to different outcomes, I think that these outcomes are so different that we basically need a differentiation. So then the answer would be yes, we should consider design regional because of the many different outcomes we can obtain by approaching the matter from different points of view. Then the second question addressed would be the following: how important is it to get a creative education in a different country? Well, based on it's on the next slide. Based on the three key concepts I developed, would be it helps us open our minds and obviously benefit from the different approaches I mentioned before, present in the different countries where we were talking about, and of course, and last but not least, questioning our own reality. This is something we should consider more often that we actually do, because giving things for granted based only on something aleatory as where we were born, I think it's a mistake. So definitely we should question our own reality, and getting creative education, depending on the countries we are in, this is a good way of questioning our own reality and probably getting to a better stage than we were at the beginning. So then the third question would be, how does this new normal, despite the fact I don't like this concept, as I will speak about later, how does this new normal form of teaching creative and cultural industries encourage this universal approach? So I think first is because it remarks the beauty of discrepancies. As we said, based on discrepancies, we can discover new concepts and new approaches that lead us to a better stage. And as well, avoiding absolute truths, because by avoiding these absolute truths, we are, as I said before, we are open-minded, we are open to discover new things and new approaches. And then as well, is very related with understanding the whys and the why nots of these different approaches, because every country has their own history and their own way to approach things. But what I found in common is that in these days we should give up impartiality. Even it doesn't matter in which country we are, the moral and the social well accepted stuff, as for instance positioning against any hate politics or something like that, that has given up I think I would say a widely accepted principle, which would be giving up impartiality. You cannot be impartial in some aspects. So now I would like to finish by questioning some of the key concepts in the next slides. The first one would be the knowledge, as we were talking about all this afternoon. Can it not really be shared in this era that we are in, the era of the information, all the omni-channels way that we have, that consumers have to communicate between themselves, with the brands, with the companies, with the governments? Can it really be hoarded? My answer is no. I think it cannot be hoarded, at least successfully. And as per the new normal, as I said, I do not like this expression. Was there ever a normal? Like when we say new normal, it is true that we are living something that is not that we haven't seen ever, but it's something strange that is true. But is it really new? I'm sure it is not a biological war, but we are fighting against something. So, and we have always had wars all over the years in the whole history. So is it really normal? Is it really new for us? And to finish up, as per the last two concepts, which would be creativity and culture. In first place, creativity. Is creativity a form or culture, or is it the soul of culture? That's my approach. I think creativity is what moves cultures and what creates cultures. And in the last place, taking this concept, the culture concept, I'd say, is it an expression of knowledge? I think it is an expression of knowledge, and all this creativity expressed along the history. So, and I think we should give the approach of the evolving investigation to approach this concept. So, last but not least, I'd like to finish up with a statement that I thought these days preparing the presentation, which is in the last slide, which would be when it comes to evolving, in my opinion, questioning can be a more powerful tool than seeking answers. So that would be it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Andres. Professor?
Wow, there's a lot there. I'm curious at which side you or have you come to some conclusion at all about the idea of diaspora versus hoarding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think the key, as I was saying, is about the knowledge. I think we cannot really think about hoarding knowledge in this era because of the way we have of living. We are always connected, as one of my classmates said. So I do not really think we can actually successfully hoard information. I don't think it doesn't matter which kind of information.
Yeah, I think it would modify sort of hoarding a little bit. Certainly, we chose that as a title, I think, to be somewhat provocative. But I think maybe if you think about keeping knowledge to a point where you're only giving it out to those people who are, going to pay for it, rather than sharing it freely. I think that the potential for that still exists. And again, I would sort of point to the virus and let's see how countries start sharing information when it comes to that. So competitive advantage and all that stuff, there are things as corporate secrets, and those, they give companies that corporate advantage. And I think, keeping it to distribute to the highest bidder, I think, is still a phenomena. But yeah, you bring up a lot of great questions there.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And now, Sarah, if you are ready, I will stop for a second and share your presentation, please.
Thank you.
I think that you can see, sorry. Now, yeah. Sarah, please.
So thank you, Professor, once again. I associate the term diaspora with a newer term that we probably all know, globalization. The meaning of both terms is to spread, scatter, and share culture and knowledge, and the results are mostly unity. The form of diaspora has helped us with universal design. The different cultures, nationalities, languages, and history contribute to the different design thinking across regions. The globalization has made it easier to work together and share information beyond borders. We have never been more alike as people. It is more important than ever to hold on to the things that differentiate us from each other. For creativity to be formed, you need different mindsets to come together, and these mindsets are typically shaped by divergent environments and cultures. Innovation and creativity appear when dissimilarities are present. Traveling across borders for the mind to learn and to grow is important for the sake of creativity. Having the possibility for creative education somewhere, unlike where you come from, is not only important, it is also a privilege. We need creative and cultural thinking and teaching, especially during a pandemic like this. It's the people who dare to think beyond what has been thought before that can maybe pull us towards a newer and better normality. That is one of the hardest things to do as a human being, of course, and because we all rely on the comfort of what we already know. Creative thinking has become one of our best survival skills in our ever-changing world. Creativity is in all of us, but to let it flourish in a time where the globalization has made humans more alike than ever can be difficult. I still think that we need to hold on to what differentiates us to be able to share different views and ideas to keep evolving and unite in new ways. The world will never stop increasing in its complexity, and the people need to be able to adapt to the new normal more than ever in order to survive in the future. There was no new slides being presented during my presentation, but I hope you understood without the pictures anyway.
Thanks so much, Sarah. If you finish it, please, Professor, do you have any question for Sarah?
Shabiz?
No, I was curious when you are talking depth of creativity. And can you explain this death of creativity? Because from my point of view, creativity never gonna die, and since human exists, creativity is there. But why? Like how from the beginning you started to connect these two, diaspora and death of creativity, together?
Yes, it was more to provoke and to put some thoughts into people's head. I used it because, as I said, globalization has made the people today on the earth more similar than ever, which can, of course, affect creativity, because we don't form creativity for similar thinking, or when we're thinking similarly. So that was just to provoke. Of course, it won't die, but it can affect creativity.
And we're gonna make it better. Thank you.
Thanks so much to everybody. Now that we are at the end of this conversation in action, I prepared this slide in order to, in a visual way, to represent what we try to do with this experiment. First of all, to provoke you to reflect based on some research question, but not with the idea to resolving the problem. Also because, like we discussed, we have no power to resolve the problem, but it's enough for us if you can speculate or thinking in alternative point of view and alternative perspective. That is more or less the idea of the power of design, with the idea of design like thinking and producing and acting, is much more related to a speculation rather than observing the real context. But before some question, if it's possible, I would like to ask to our director room if they can play the last video, the second video before the conclusion, if it's possible. Thanks.
Give us a Macedonian air. A Macedonian air. Oh, man. New worlds.
Were they ever meant to be our equals? Share our rewards?
What disturbs me most is not your lack of respect for my judgment. It's your contempt for a world far older than ours.
The most powerful man in the world took a girl of no political significance. Why? In his dream, it was the promised route to the end of the world. We were now a mobile empire, cooks and architects, doctors and surveyors, moneylenders and wives, children, lovers, whores, and forget not the slaves, that anonymous, bent, working spine, this new beast, ravaged or expanded for better or worse. No occupied territory remained the same again.
And this is a short video from the movie Alexander, and I think that in order to conclude and to use the next 5-10 minutes to some reflection together, is that when we talk about diaspora, how you can see in the movie, diaspora can be also, from my personal point of view, related to the idea of secularization. The concept of secularization that is coming from different interpretation is absolutely connected with history, culture, contradiction based on this culture, and the idea that and that's why I really appreciate the conversation with all of you, with this idea that diaspora can be both positive and negative. Depend, of course, to the lens that are you using. How you can see after 10 presentations, we have 10 different perspectives, 10 different opinions. Also, the lecture gave us by the professor from our guest from USA, they have absolutely a totally different perspective from the same research question. And that is also important from my personal point of view. Let me conclude and then open it for some questions, because in this course, we are not trying to teach the student how to only resolving the problem, but also to become a leader using critical approach, creative thinking, of course, and be able to reflect into the problem, try to resolving the problem, not reacting on the problem, but creating maybe another problem, another reflection, another approach, able to fight against the main problem. Now, Professor Jerry and Professor Jabid, and also for our student, is free time now to have some possible question, because we are at the end of this lecture and conversation. And wait a second, let me stop the presentation in case we can see each other. If you have any question, please, this is the time at the end of this conversation to open your mind and to start with some question. Nobody? I'm also asking to, because we need to say thanks to the 10 students that they present, but we have more students online that they didn't talk. For example, I would like to involve this is an experiment, Yves-Marie. Yves-Marie, are you online?
Yes, good afternoon. I would like to ask if to you diaspora is something positive or negative, if you already lived it or if you already met it in your country or in your past life.
Thanks so much. Professor Jerry, Professor Jabiz.
Actually,
go ahead. No, you go.
Yeah, for myself, if I want to just answer this question, I see diaspora as a positive thing. And, you know, when I was talking about that things which about Freud and Edward Bernays, I was thinking if it would be now, or if I would be in that time, I would give people to this idea of share to feel better, instead of just buying and owning things to feel better or hoarding things to feel better. And like learning to the word of sharing is gonna make the society better place to live. I love the diaspora idea because of that. But Jerry, I leave you to answer.
Certainly, I feel like I've experienced that more. Two authors, Bill Bishop and Robert Cushing, wrote the book The Big Sort. And for the most part, they're talking about the United States and how people are moving around and reorganizing themselves in cities that are more attuned to them or more like them. And it's one of the reasons why we feel like there's more of a, a divide or a separation between groups within the United States, because people are, reorganizing themselves that way. I think that kind of reorganization, resorting happens in other ways, and particularly in design, but also in sort of the development, engineering, other disciplines where we consider, again, these groups that are not based on borders, but based on like-mindedness or shared, sort of values that we have. So it goes towards less sort of cultural significance and more towards individual relationships and individual or communities that we start to restructure. And I think that's one of the things that the pandemic is accelerating maybe a little bit, is the notion of reconfiguring our communities that we relate to. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that. I think it helps to share knowledge and share experiences.
Thanks so much. And Lovisa, please, Lovisa, can you add some of your opinion based on this conversation, please?
Yes, I actually was thinking a bit about the thought about universal design or the regional, because like overall, I tend to think that functionalities and knowledge and problem-solving opportunities will always get a chance to be global. But like in the situation that we are in right now, we were talking a bit about the vaccine. That's a problem-solving activity or asset, and I just think it's. I would like to talk a bit about like how you guys feel about sharing vaccine, how you think that countries will act and if it's going to be like sharing or hoarding.
Well, my hope is that, again, sort of maybe with a new government administration here in the United States, that we are more altruistic in that sense, where we want to share information. But I recognize too that there's an economic side, particularly in the United States, about pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical companies, and they have a lot of lobbying power here in the US. And that's not to say that other countries aren't going to come up with vaccines. I think there's, you know, again, it provides a global market that makes it competitive. And so if the United States isn't selling vaccines, other countries will, and take advantage of, you know, sort of the economic potential there. So it's an interesting sort of balance of things. And again, I would hope that even just the individual looking at this situation says, we need to help other countries get past this pandemic, and just for a moment feel some empathy towards other countries in order to, you know, maybe put pressure on the government, but even for their own selves, say that we are human beings. Borders have their advantages and disadvantages, but as human beings, this kind of knowledge, this kind of information needs to be shared.
I think this time is not just sharing the knowledge and information, is by giving vaccine to other countries, they are buying their safety as well. It's the other way of looking at it. If other countries would not have vaccine and wouldn't be safe, they won't be able to exchange things or travel or business or all this stuff that would have not benefit for them as well.
Thanks so much. Lovisa, are you in favor of sharing or not?
I'm in favor of sharing, but like, even though I'm in favor of sharing, I think that the base of sharing is if you come up with like solution for everyone and not just like local communities and yeah, stuff like that. So I'm absolutely in favor of sharing, but I think there's some limitations. Like, even if we don't want to have limitations, there are some.
Okay, now we have a question. Enzo, please.
Hi, I'm Enzo. Nice to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to ask about the diaspora, as people that deal with diaspora almost every day. About the COVID situation, what do you think about the thing that maybe this biological happening shows us that once the genius set is outside of the bottle, it is impossible to bring it inside again. So I think about all our struggling in getting solutions for the economy, for politics, and for all of the problems that we had related to the pandemic. But maybe diaspora can give us the possibility to stop keep the illusion that we have a solution for everything, and maybe we have to change paradigm and to go ahead. I like so much the finding of Andres. Maybe questioning is the right point, and we should stop to think that, for example, the state have the solution for the problem of the everyone in a country, or that almost there is someone who has a solution also for the science, because we knew in this period that it's quite difficult for example, to develop drugs or vaccines is a difficult thing, and the scientists, of course, are not perfect, are not people that have an immediate solution, but they have to work hard to reach it. So what do you think about this idea of diaspora as a tool to keep some illusions that maybe are not so useful for us? Thank you.
Javis, have you got a thought on that?
I'm thinking about it. It's a big question.
I think it's a very interesting question. It is this presumption that we do we have answers for everything, and that's why I think I'm hopeful, is because maybe people now see that there are forces that are much more powerful than human beings. Although I'm sure that after things settle down and the Black Plague went away, and we feel as human beings that we did conquer and we did overcome this situation, so that it may reinforce the idea that we have answers for everything, despite the discomfort that we feel, and sadly a lot of the loss that we've experienced because of it. But hopefully there's at least a moment of reflection to say that there is a force out there that can really halt the way that we normally behave and interact on the Earth, and that's why I'm hopeful that maybe it changes perspectives, and to the point of sort of the new normal. I don't believe for a moment that we will remain in this situation, but it certainly will shift the way that we think about the world and think about each other after we're on the other side of it. So that I think is what most people are considering, sort of what the new normal will be. How will we be affected by this? What will we take going forward after this is all done? And for me, I hope again it's a moment for humanitarians to be more admired or responsive than for those who sort of prefer that we stay separate and sort of individual and more competitive in the negative kind of way.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks so much to everybody, because we are at the end of this lesson, because we need to remember that this was a lesson. But first of all, I would like to say thanks to all the students, all the future creative talents who did the presentation, who didn't do the presentation. Doesn't matter, you were involved in the conversation. That's why, first of all, thanks to all of you for the effort and for your anomaly interpretation. Second, of course, thanks to our guests, because they spend time to stay with us. They also give us the possibility to have a different opinion from the same research question. Thanks so much, Professor Jerry, and thanks so much, Professor Shabiz, for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks. And of course, thanks to IULM, to all the people that make possible these activities, the international office, the technical office, because they support us in an invisible way, but they are absolutely with us in this activity. And we are really proud, because this is the first time that we simulate this lecture, and we transform the lecture in a kind of entertainment, or let me say, scientific approach entertainment that is also part of the education. Because if you are not able to test yourself, empower yourself, force yourself also to speak in front of the camera with all the complexity, with all the problems we have online, people in Canada, in Italy, in Spain, in Sweden, in different parts of the world. But this, from my personal point of view, with some mistake, but was a beautiful activities, and I hope that we can implement in the future. Thanks so much to everybody. If there are no any questions, I think that we can conclude the live.
Thank you, Francesco.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks,
This was a
Shabiz.
really good talk.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Francesco. Thanks, IULM University, and thanks all of you. Knowing you and listening to you was really awesome. And at the end, I saw some of you had questions and you didn't have a chance to ask the questions. Feel free to email us. You can find us from Francesco, and we can share things together. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.